They say guaranteed income for life, but is that the truth?
And now, broadcasting from Titletown, USA, here's Joe Simon.
Guaranteed is a big word that people from my side of the fence, advisors in the insurance and financial services world, are very cautious in using. And so we are walking on thin ice today, but we're going to talk more about guaranteed income for life as we continue. This is part two in a three-part series with our subject matter expert, SHERYL J. Moore. Uh, SHERYL, we were just talking briefly in part one about guaranteed income for life. It's very attractive. It's very appealing to say you have that. But can you describe a little bit more about what your findings are as a subject matter expert, especially when we talk about fixed indexed annuities?
Yeah, you bet. So, one of the biggest parts of my job is reading articles that are in the media that have to do with life insurance and annuities. And I read a lot of articles that provide statistics on what percentage of Americans are concerned about not having enough in retirement. And these are always, in my mind, a great opportunity for insurance agents that sell annuities to talk to their clients about guaranteed lifetime income, because it doesn't matter if you live to be 150 years old, the insurance company is going to continue paying that check to you every month once you say you want to earn income from your annuity.
What we're seeing there is 73% of Americans have recently said they're concerned about inflation from the index from the industry side for many years. What we call that as a stealth tax because it's sneaky. It doesn't show up on the government reports that we hear about, but it's out there. It's kind of in the dark room of our household. Let's say it's something that's just slowly deteriorating our earnings potential. So that phrase guaranteed income for life, really when you stop and think about it for a minute and start to imagine, it's very appealing. I think you're doing a great job of walking us through that as consumers, as an advisor talking to consumers. I'm thinking about people that, let's be honest, there's a lot of this going around right now where they're wondering if there's any hope for their retirement future. We know that more and more Americans are have retired and re-entered the workforce in the last few years. We know that there are people, and this will bring us back to 2008, 2000, let's say 2006, before things got really murky uh, in the United States, where everybody was talking about, I'm going to retire at 55 to 60. I've got $1 million in my 401k. And then the sky fell. So we're dealing with a different reality in America today. Um, and there's only so much that we can do. One more thing I want to throw on the table, and then I'm interested in hearing back review on this, SHERYL, is the flavors. So these great insurance carriers have 12 different ways to do this in the annuity under the annuity banner, but then we have fixed annuities, we have fixed index annuities, we have variable annuities, and then there's 7 or 8 different versions of designs of that. Um, how do we decipher this and really trust who's ever talking to us about this? I mean, can you speak on any of this, SHERYL?
Yeah, you bet. So, one of the things I love most is helping consumers to understand life insurance and annuity products. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of different types of annuities out there. And I think that's why it's really important to work with a trusted advisor who knows this business, because there are so many choices. And where we're talking primarily about indexed annuities, there are products for people who are even more conservative and just want to earn money similar to a CD, but with an improved rate. And then there's types of annuities that are for people who say, look, I'm okay with losing money if I get the potential to earn more of the interest based on the stock market's performance. Index annuities are just something that I'm personally a fan of. But again, I don't endorse any company or product. I think these products are powerful, though, Joe. I mean, my grandmother passed away when I was 8 years old, and my grandfather took the proceeds of her life insurance policy that were left after her burial and placed it in an annuity. And what's really interesting is that I remember the time he got his check and said, haha, I've made more off of this insurance company than I paid into them.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped him for the
Mm-hmm.
later part of his life to help supplement his income. So I'm just a personal big fan of these products.
Yeah.
I try and stay agnostic in my professional opinion, but I personally love annuities.
I saw a recent report that I believe it was Morningstar produced, and they were challenging the old, what I'll call it, and I think this actually was the headline, the old 60/40 rule is in question. And that goes back to, as an advisor, you think about some basic blocking and tackling of how you advise somebody on how they diversify their portfolio. And so, with that principle in mind, what the discussion was about is that really putting 60% in bonds, government bonds, and 40% in the stock market just won't get you to where you need to go when you're in your retirement years, taking 4% out of your assets. And what they did a study on a side to side comparison, and I'm not going to mention the insurance carrier by name, but if you're interested, if somebody's interested in that, they can contact me. But it does a comparison between the old 60/40 rule and the new 60/20/20 rule that said still 60% in government bonds, still 20% in the stock market, not 40, and 20% into a fixed indexed annuity, and let them grow based on historical values. And the comparison was phenomenal. You didn't quadruple your money, but you made a lot more money on that. And if someone's listening right now, that alone should get your attention. On if you've never seen a comparison like that before, that's a very telling story. Those are real things happening in the market today. And I would be willing to say that's probably why over $430 billion has moved just last year into this particular segment. As I was mentioning, there's a lot of different types of annuities out there. One of the things that I find fascinating, and probably your grandfather discovered as well, is this annuity. Once the money goes in, and we'll call this a non-qualified annuity, non-IRA, non-401k, that money stays there. It's captured for as long as you want it to be. There's no dividends reporting. There's no required minimum distribution in a non-qualified annuity of any kind. So that in itself is very, very powerful. Last thing I want to mention, and I don't know what your experience on this one is, Sheryl, but annuities are great for somebody that's a philanthropist or wants to be a philanthropist by creating something very special for your favorite nonprofit organization and having them be the beneficiary ongoing. Is this something you could talk just a bit about?
Well, what's interesting, Joe, is I have my own charitable gift annuity. My son was born with face defects and some health
Okay.
problems, and the Shriners Hospitals for Children helped him out and gave him 12 different surgeries. And so I wanted a way once I was financially better than I was as a single mom of three,
Yeah.
and I wanted to pay it forward. So I actually have a charitable gift annuity with the Shriners Hospital for Children as a beneficiary on the contract.
Wow. So what's just happened in this conversation? Our people are listening, and what's coming to my mind is somebody that has done an excellent job raising their kids. They have some grandkids. Life has gotten a little easier for them, possibly financially. And what we've just said was you can direct a legacy in your name if you want to for any type of chair, anything that's a nonprofit organization. So from a healthcare system to a university or educational system to your church, as long as it's a nonprofit organization. All of those nonprofits fall under this. In some cases, there are some advisors that don't quite understand that specifically. Sometimes, depending on what type of assets we're talking about, you may want to get your. My suggestion is getting your attorney involved that's got some estate planning background because of possibly some documents and other people that you want in on the conversation. But we're coming up on time here in part two, Cheryl. I would encourage people to visit your website on the books that you've written over the time. There's the website. Go visit Cheryl over there. We love your story, Cheryl, and we're so glad that you're able to be one of our subject matter experts. We're into part two now. Part three is coming up, and a little tickler, a little teaser here for our viewers. I want to talk about hybrid annuities in the next subject in the next part. I'm going to share a little personal story about what we're walking through with my mom and some of the things I've learned in a very close and personal way. That's next, but I want you to have a prosperous day. Stay tuned. We've got much more to talk about with Cheryl Moore.
You've been listening to the Joe Simon Podcast. Big ideas with powerful stories and real-time solutions. Business succession planning. Executive benefits, employee benefits, tax beneficial savings, and more. Remember, information discussed here today is dated and not specific to your situation. Always seek personal counsel from qualified advisors. For more about Joe Simon, go to DaVinciInsurance.com. Joe Simon is a licensed insurance agent in the state of Wisconsin. Licensed to advise on accident and health, life insurance, disability insurance, and annuities, as well as qualified long-term care insurance. Make sure to visit the DaVinciInsurance.com archives for more of our podcasts.